Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Bahamani. I'm one of the owners of Run Try Bike Magazine. Thank you for joining our Tuesday Fireside Chats. Today, we're going to be talking with Coach Morgan Latimore, who is the author of Triathlete Mindset, Aspire to Redefine What's Possible for You. Before we jump into questions with Morgan, I just want to give you a heads up. On your screen, you also see Om Gandhi, who is the social media manager for Run Try Bike Magazine. He's going to be our moderator today. On the bottom right corner is a little question mark. Tap that little question mark if you have questions for Coach Morgan. Get to them as we go along. Before we get started, you see the wetsuit behind me. That's a Blue 70 wetsuit. If you are in need of goggles or a hoodie or a bag, go to Blue 70, use RTD15 and get 15% off of your purchase. So with that being said, I'm excited to have Coach Morgan Latimore on this fireside chat. If you are a subscriber to our magazine, recognize Morgan. So we're really back with him here today. Morgan, thank you for joining us today and being a part of our fireside.
Well, hey, it's a pleasure to be here. We were just catching up prior to jumping on here. It's always good to meet people and to stay into contact with people and to work beside people that are doing the same thing that you envision, and that's building a community of triathlon, right, and endurance sports.
Absolutely, and we're gonna get to that in a second. So, if you recall, about a year ago we talked, and our goal then, as it is today, is to introduce beginners to the sport, especially from marginalized communities, people of color, women, LGBTQ+, physically challenged, disabled athletes. But tell us how you got started in triathlon and why you continue to participate and coach in the sport of triathlon.
I started off just like everybody else. It was like, I ain't doing that. That's crazy, right? That you hear that across the board, but that's exactly why we do it, because it is crazy, right? But I think we look at the physical feat and we're in awe of what people can accomplish, and so we wonder, like, can we do that? And so I thought about that. But I think the biggest piece of it, why I joined the triathlon community, was the community, like literally the community, right? And because I've always felt welcome. Like, there's always been somebody there that's like, hey, let me show you how to do this. Let me do this for you. Like, sometimes, I've learned as a coach now, I've been doing this for a little bit, a while now, that you also get these for that people don't know how to stop giving you information to. So you learn how to filter that other craziness out of here. But that is a big piece of everything, right? The community, doing hard things, and just challenging yourself. And then the medals, like, the medals are awesome, because I always tell people, guess what? When you're in like elementary school, you love that little ribbon. You love getting your little star at the end of the day, or your 4, or whatever it is, to get that accolade to say, like, I did my best today, and I was better than I was yesterday, or better than the other person. It's like, so it's setting those goals, and triathlon is just the adult version of those stars that we got in kindergarten.
Very true. That's a great point. I sometimes see race directors ask the question of, do we want to continue to give medals? And I know there's a cost component to the medals, but let me tell you something. Like, it's uber important for people to feel like a sense of accomplishment in getting that medal, especially after all those days, weeks, months, maybe even years of training to get to that finish line. So
It's not a medal. It's a symbolization of, like, everything. Like you just said, like, it's a symbol. So when I go grab a medal, right, I look down, I'm like, oh, I remember this. And it could be a person I met or experience I had. And so, like, for me, there's races in this area that don't give medals. Well, I don't do those races. Right? I could do a triathlon in my house. Like, I don't need, I go to the pool, I can ride my bike from the pool and then run from there. Why do I need to go? Like, the whole point of it is to feel a sense of belonging, and that race is what that the race medal is what connects us all. Because if you have the same one and I have the same one, and if, say, you even a shirt, or when you saw my shirt and my hat, right?
yeah,
We instantly had, like, a common ground. That's what a medal does, right? And so it's like, oh, I remember that, and I can look at that medal and say, man, I've come so far. Like, I can go pull my first 5K medal. It was a watermelon 5K in Albany, Georgia, and the gnats and mosquitoes were killing us. Like, I was ready to run just to get away from them, right? until like my biggest one, my Ultraman. I look at that and I have those flashbacks of those moments where I wanted to quit, but I didn't. Right. And so I think those things are very, very important for us to have in our lives. And if sometimes we get so caught up into the quantity, right? And that's how much does the medal cost? How many do we need to buy? How many don't we need? How many do we waste? How many do we give away? Right? That's the quantity. But what we failed to realize is it's not about the quantity while we do the race. It's about the quality
Right.
of life, the quality of our feelings, the quality of our emotions. That's what's important.
Absolutely. So I want to jump into your new book. For those of you who are on the IG Live now, we will be giving away Morgan's newest book, Triathlete Mindset, Aspire to Redefine Possible.
I think I got them around here somewhere. I don't remember where, but they close.
I'm sure you got plenty of them. In
A
that
whole
book,
bunch.
you talk about core values for triathlon, which you describe as vulnerability, enthusiasm, perseverance, and mindfulness. Why and what do each of those mean to you and triathlon?
Well, mindfulness is just understanding where you are in your life, right? Understanding who you are or who you want to be. I always strive to be better than you were yesterday, right? And so being mindful of how you do that, being mindful of the things you need to fix, being mindful also kind of, almost a little bit transitions into vulnerability, being mindful enough to like look within, be introspective about like, who are you? And so until you know what the foundation of who you are, where you are, and what you've done, you can't be anything different. So being mindful of that in your surroundings and the impact that I always tell people, excuse me, the big piece is like, you don't ever know who's looking, right? Being mindful of your actions because somebody's watching you. You might not think, oh, I'm nobody, but like my athlete sent me something the other day, and she's just a normal person, right? But somebody messaged her and say, because you did this, I tried harder today. She didn't even know the person,
I love
right?
it.
So stuff like that, right? There comes to like vulnerability. Um, I think when it comes to triathlon, like you don't get a choice. It strips you down, like because it could be in training or a race day, but you could be the toughest person out. But when that grit and resilience has to kick in to keep you going, like you become vulnerable. Like you see a side of yourself that you don't visit your personally that much, right? And then when you go through different things, that vulnerability is shared between me and you is because we suffer the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? We may be different people, but when we did that race, I can talk to you about the headwind. You can be like, yeah, I remember that, right? Or the swim in Ultraman, Arizona, right? That where we had to pull everybody out the water because the lake looked like an ocean, right?
Right.
Because of the waves, and so being vulnerable enough to say, I'm scared, I don't know, or how can I be better, right? And so those are very big pieces. What are the other two that you said? I don't off the top of my head.
Enthusiasm and perseverance.
So we talked a little bit about perseverance, being able to do hard things, right? Um, I think perseverance is something that we don't realize that we already have, right? What's that quote? We've come too far to only go this far,
Right.
right? Like perseverance is literally the thing that has gotten us to here, and we sometimes we forget that. They're like, oh, this is so hard. I don't know if I can keep going. I say, but if you look back a year from ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, you didn't think you would be where you are, but here you are, right? And then the last one is enthusiasm. It's like for me as a coach, one is like celebrating my athletes. As you say, I always post about my athletes all the time, right? Because I should be one of their biggest cheerleaders. Like that is literally my job. I know there are coaches out here that will argue that, or that my job is not to be a cheerleader. Well, what the hell is your job then? Because they can learn what you tell them from a book, right? What you bring to the table is a personal experience. You bring empathy, you bring compassion, you bring knowledge. Like that only comes from another human being. Anybody can read a book, right? But only another person can show that person how they're appreciated, right? Those things are very important. So being enthusiastic only about each other, about the growth, but being enthusiastic about yourself, like you get to do this. There are many people out there. That's kind of where one big reason I did Ultraman in 2018. It was like I had came back from Afghanistan, and then like I realized how many people that don't get to come home, right? That don't get to, and I wanted to make sure that I took fully advantage of my health, of my family, and all the other things that I do to keep me moving forward. And I need to be like happy and excited about life. Like we get, oh man, I can't afford a new Garmin, or I need a new bike. Man, at least you got one. Right? Be excited for what you have, not what you don't have. Appreciate who you are, not who you want to be. Right? That's the key of growth.
Yeah, you know, we have a couple of sports psychologists that write for us, and you know, what they say is to change your mindset from "I have to go run 5" to "I get to go run 5 miles," and that's exactly your point. Is create that enthusiasm, like I get to do this. So I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, so I got to put all these posts up on the website. We got to talk to Coach Morgan. We got to do, and I was like, no, wait a minute, I get to do these things because whether we know it or not, like you said earlier, we're impacting people's lives. Like whether you know it or not, whether somebody actually called you or wrote you a letter, you were on the cover of this magazine. And you and I, you know, we've been at plenty of starting lines where we don't see African American triathletes very often. We don't get Hispanic triathletes very often there. And so maybe the cover of that magazine caught somebody's eye and got them to say, let me go try, let me go do this, because I see somebody that looks like me as well. And I just think that's hugely important. And I think that's a lot of what comes across on your Instagram posts. We talked about enthusiasm. This was going to be my last question, but we talked about enthusiasm. And I want you to talk to the audience about your Friday, because, man, like, Friday morning, it's one of the first things I go to see. So tell the audience about Friday, because I think they're everything.
Man, Friday happened for the pandemic, bro. Like I was doing it a little bit spotty, but then during the pandemic and during Black Lives Matter, all this craziness was going on, and people were posting like the black flag, and you know what I mean, like to represent the support and stuff like that. And it was the Trump thing was going on. It was, and everybody had their negative feelings about that. It was politics. It don't matter if it was Trump or not. Like politics in general, like there's usually negative energy around it. And then Black Lives Matter, then COVID. Well, everybody was focusing on the negative, right? And I was like, you know what? How about we celebrate what we have? Like let's enjoy what we do have, and let's take advantage of that. And so I started doing it for a little while, and then one day I stopped. And then I started getting text messages and emails. I was like, what the heck? Where are you at? Are you okay? Like people were asking me was I okay? Like, what are you like? Is everything good? I said, yeah, I'm fine. What's up? He said, well, I've been waiting for Friday all day, and you haven't posted it. And I realized then that was the first time I realized that people really like this. Like I thought I was having a good time in my car, acting crazy to a good song, right? And then I had this lady reach out to me, and this is what solidified Fridays. The Fridays never go away from. It might not be every week, but it will happen for the rest of my life. And she reached out to me. She said, "I just lost my daughter to cancer," and she said, "I watched your video today, and it gave me purpose, and I ain't missed a beat since." Right? And literally, in a business sense, bro, like people hire me just because of that video. That's it, bro. Like they're like, I love your energy. Could you be my coach? That's it. That's it.
Well, let me tell you something. Every Friday that it's up there, I see it and I get excited, because I could feel your energy. And I'm like, okay, it's Friday, and most people are like, what am I doing tomorrow for the weekend or Sunday or whatever? And I'm like, man, what am I going to go do right now, right this second? I'm pumped up and excited. So for those of you who are in the audience who are just joining us, go check out Coach Morgan Latimore on Instagram's page after this question and answer session, and go check out his Fridays, because they are awesome. They'll get you pumped up. If you have a workout that you're dreading tomorrow, go watch one now, and then you'll be excited to do it tomorrow. Trust me.
And if I'll say this too, and if you ever, for both of you, everybody on this call right now, if I'm ever with you on a Friday, best believe you in the video. Wherever I am, it is going down, right? And if I'm with you, it's like last I was with my Ram team about 2 weeks ago, and we was in El Cajon, and we were at the house, and they was like, it's Friday. Are you gonna do your video? I said, yeah, we are. They said, we. I said, yeah, get all 15, 20 y'all up here and let's dance. Let's get it, And we had a camera crew there anyway. And so I was like, hey, can you do the, do this for us? And he was like, consider it done. And it was one of the best because probably the most people love the ones where other people are involved because they've been seeing me forever, right?
Yeah.
Even though I'm beautiful, sexual chocolate, they see me all the time. But when they get other people involved, right? Other athletes, other pro athletes, other people, it's just fun. And even when people do it, like because I'm usually around people that don't have that same personality as me, because I got a lot of energy, when I'm out and about. And I do that with people, and you see them come outside their shell because most people that I do it with are uncomfortable because they don't act like that, right? And I was like, it's like, well, I'm a little crazy. I said, the crazier you look, the better this video will be.
Right. Let's just have some fun, man. We only got one life. Like,
that's it, man.
Oh man, on your deathbed. Oh man, I should have done that Friday with Coach Morgan back then. Do it. Have fun. I mean, we only get one chance at this world.
Right.
For those of you who are joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. Welcome to our Tuesday Fireside Chats. Joining us today is Coach Morgan Latimore. We're discussing all things, but specifically Triathlete Mindset, Aspire to Redefine What's Possible for You, which is Morgan's new book. We will be giving 2 away, so stay tuned to this, and we'll be selecting names at the end of this call. We also have a question mark on the bottom right-hand side of your screen where you just tap that and ask a question of Coach Morgan, and our social media manager, Om Gandhi, will ask the question of Morgan as it comes along. So please, if you've got questions, don't be afraid to tap the question mark and ask it. So, Morgan, you are an advocate for a well-rounded life to support each athlete's triathlon journey. So what does that mean? Because I believe the same thing, but I want to hear what your concept is.
I think the triathlon journey is just a human journey, right? And so triathlon is what I use to convey my message, because in our space there's not many people talking about what we talk about, right? Positivity happens. Everybody want to go, what's your race numbers? What's your data? What's the terrain? What gear you got? All that like that. We beat that to goes crazy, right? And so, but nobody's talking about how you feel, because guess what? Before you're a triathlete, you're a person. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, right? Your cousin, your son, your daughter, right? And so you are a human being, and triathlon should bring value to your life, right? And so that journey is everything that you learn about yourself during the process of becoming a triathlete, maintaining the title triathlete, becoming an Ironman, doing your first sprint, doing a fight. Like it doesn't really matter what the sport is. I'm just using triathlon as like, okay, these people need me, right? This is what I feel like they need me. This space needs me, because this is like, we talk about marginalized communities. We look at black, white, age appropriate, sexual orientation, but like we don't look at like people as a whole or in genres that are not getting all of the pieces of the pie that other industries are getting, right? Because like if you look at triathlon is an infant, right? It's only like 46, 47 years old, something like that, right? And if you look at all other sports, they're centuries old, right? Cycling and running and wrestling, and like they've been, Greek Romans and stuff have been doing a whole bunch of these things before. So they've been through all these cycles of creating like something. Triathlon is just a place where we can explore who we are, explore who we want to be, and everything that we do in training and on race day transcends that, right? It's everything that we do in life. You're more confident in the water, you become more confident at work, right? You're able to prepare and time manage your training schedule. Well, that gives you an ability like to prepare and time manage your life, time budget your life, right? How do you handle dark moments on the race course or in training or when you're going through something? Like, what did you do in triathlon and just preparing yourself for those moments? You use those same skills. And that's why you see people stay so long, is because these values have touched them mentally and emotionally. And that's the one thing that all human beings on this earth have in common, is our mental and our emotional feelings and thought patterns, right? We all are different. but we feel just like everybody else. Everybody gets sad, everybody gets angry. There's just different levels of that. But that's that one thing that we have in common. And what we get from triathlon is all those feelings, right? We get all that, and it brings value to us, and it showed us how to improve it. And that's why you see people keep doing races, because they want to continue to learn. As I call it, is peeling back the onion. Every time we race, every time we train, every time we do something different, we peel back the onion and find a different layer of who we are.
That's awesome. So as you're talking, thinking to myself, is Triathlete Mindset a human spirit book with a triathlon bend, or is it a triathlon book with a human spirit bend? How would you describe it?
I don't know. It's a question. I remember talking to a gentleman on my podcast before, and the name of the podcast was that episode was going to be how I found triathlon, right? But then he kind of spun it on me. It's like how triathlon found me, right? Because we think in so many ways that we were out here looking for something so we could be better. But how do you know that triathlon didn't bring you to that point? Like you didn't go searching for it. The world brought it to you. It would expose you to you. Like I didn't go, hey, I'm going to be a triathlete. I'm going to go be a triathlon coach. I'd never said that, right? I got pulled in by some people. They showed me something else. They introduced me to somebody else. I did something else, right? Triathlon molded me into who you see today, right? It played probably at least 50% of the part of why Coach Morgan even exists, right? Because I've learned so much about myself, and I was like, you know what? I want to teach that to everybody else. So I guess it depends. To answer your question, I guess it depends on where you are in your life, and how, are you, when we talk about mindfulness, are you willing to see it from both sides? Because I never think about flexibility, right? Because that's here or there. It's like either flexible or it's a breaking point, right? I never talk about balance, because either you're in balance or you're out of balance. But if we look at things as in fluidity, we move and gather together, or in harmony, where we work together with everything, the good or the bad has a purpose. And it's how we use it and move forward in our mindfulness that chooses that. And everything that we do in triathlon is what they call in Buddhism, the beginner's mind. Every time I start something, every time I do something, I go into it feeling like and understand that I know nothing, so I can learn more in that moment.
That's fantastic. I have a couple of questions here, so I want to jump into these a little bit. So you're quoted as saying, with this book, I want to show people that every triathlete has a life-changing story. So what is one of the stories that stands out more than others to you, from the people you've coached or the people you've run into over your time in the sport?
Damn, that's a lot. I've had over 300 athletes. Shoot.
Pick a couple of them then.
I mean, I've had athletes like, his name was, I won't say his name, but he was out of San Diego, and I remember working with him, and he came to me because he was unhealthy, high blood pressure, everything else, right? He started to have really negative effects from the stress in his life, and he had ADHD, and he didn't know it, right? And so working with him and giving him aerobic training and talking to him about how important health is, not about triathlon, really lowered his blood pressure. And he was when he left, he was healthier, he was happier, and he felt good about himself, right? There's a lot of pieces out there when it comes to a lot of the stories are in my book, but there's pieces out there the young lady that was bit by a shark when she was a child, right? And she's in the book, right? Susan. And from that reason, when she came to me, I was like, I'm Coach Morgan. Like, I'm the mindset guy. Like, you bring a problem to me, I can fix it, right? I'm very confident in that because I do it every day, right? I talk to hundreds and hundreds of people. And she came to me and I was like, okay, what's why are you scared of the water? Why you don't want to get in open water? She's like, well, I was bit by a shark. And I was like, I wasn't ready for that, right? Because I was like, you don't get that often, right? I was bit by a shark and I want to go back in. And I'm like, you can't show that, like, that uncertainty right? You can't show that uncertainty. You have to be confident because they're looking for you to show them
Right.
how to get that confidence back. And I worked with her, and it was super simple. And her story is in the book, and it talks about how I didn't even tell her to, most people are like, just do it, just go in. I was like, just go knee deep in the water. Everybody else was out there swimming. I said, just stand there. And when you're ready, you take a step. If you don't want to take a step, then don't take a step. I walked off and did my own thing. Next thing I know, she was waist deep in the water, right? And then she said, Coach. I was like, yeah. She's like, I'm gonna go in. I said, okay, right? And it was a conversation that we had. I was like, this is most coaches and most people want to force you and have expectations on how you should learn, right? They try to put you in a box. Well, I don't put people in boxes. I meet athletes where they are. I build boxes for athletes, right? For them, for who they are. And I said, this is your journey. You go when you're ready. There's no pressure. There's no expectations. If you don't go in today, you don't go in today, right? And she went in and she swam that day. She actually, because she could already swim, but she stayed in the pool after getting bit in the ocean, right? And so it was as a childhood. So she's in her 60s, and it took her that long to get back in the open water.
Wow.
But I was able to, we were able to understand that sometimes it's the pressures of life that brings us to fear. And I'll speak about swimming really quickly, then I'll go to whatever other question you have. Most of the time, people are afraid of the water when the water ain't the issue. The water, if you look at every scenario, a drowning or whatever, they're like, it's the water, it's the water. It ain't. It's not. One, it ain't our element. So that makes it not. That means it's our responsibility to understand where we're going into. Why are we there? So if somebody drowned, why they drowned? Well, he was in the deep end. Could he swim? No. So he shouldn't have been there, right? Or there was the rip current. Did he know that? Did he take the proper precautions? But if you look back at it, or somebody threw you in, like I haven't heard a story yet where the water was the issue, right? But we put that negative energy on the water. So what I do is when I work with people is like I show them that there's truth to your journey, and then there's a part where society is what society is showing you. And society is usually showing us like people drown in this, and that, but they're not giving you every detail, right? Just like motorcycles get a bad rap. Just like I got to do a triathlon, but I'm just gonna give you an example. Everybody, I hate motorcycles, they kill you. No, people kill you, right? Because usually it's the rider's fault, or you hit something after you crash, or you didn't have the training to be on that bike going that fast or doing whatever you did, right? And then there's proper precautions that you take. Yeah, there's flukes, but guess what? There could be a fluke on an airplane, and right now I can choke on my saliva and die in front of the damn camera. Like there's a
Don't.
lot of no, I'm not gonna do it. It'd be pretty dramatic. You might get some more press, but I don't want to die. But anyway, but like those are the things that's what the journey is all about. Is showing people that society has taught us to be so many things that we are not. Right? We take on everybody's pain. We take on everybody's fear. We take on everybody's doubt. We take on everybody's imposter syndrome. But we have come too far to just go this far. We're very strong and gritful people, but when we're listening to society, it tells us you're weak, you're fragile, you're soft, but you're not. You've done so much to be here, and sometimes it's just reminding an athlete of that. Like we think that triathlon is this one thing that sits all by itself, but it's just another part of life. And all the things that we've learned in the high school, the elementary school, college, or families, those lessons can still be implemented in triathlon. So when you think that, you can't keep pushing past a certain point and you come like, oh, I feel like I'm going to quit. Just realize, when is the last time you wanted to quit in your life? Realize that. How did
Yeah.
you get through that? What did you do? Well, I did this. So why not do this here? Right?
Yep.
You have the tool. I'm not creating things that people don't already have. I'm helping them uncover who they already are. That's it.
Yeah. And I think one thing you're talking about here too, I think from a societal pressure standpoint, is people see they feel this need, this desire, this push to go do a 6.3, do an Ironman, do an ultra, But if you're comfortable and happy doing Olympic distance racing or racing half marathons, keep doing it. That's where you're at. Enjoy it. Don't worry about what people are telling you should be doing. And that's one of the things that we try to emphasize with Run Try Bike is if this is what you like to do it. Don't worry about what somebody else thinks you should be doing. And I think when we bring that mentality together, I think you'll see people surprise themselves, right? Like, I can't believe I did X. Like, I'm sure athletes that you've coached doing Ultramans, right? When they first got started this stuff, it was, can I run a mile, right? And now it's riding a bike 250 miles and swimming, running back-to-back marathons, right? To think, oh my goodness, I can't do this. Ohm is a perfect example. Ohm was one of the first people to write a story for us on how it all started. And it started with, I ran a quarter of a mile. Now,
and it
my
probably
guy
hurt like hell.
Yeah, it did.
He's racing 100 milers. He's talking about doing 200 milers, right? And it started with a quarter mile. And, he embraced that mindset back then and he built up. And I think your mentality for coaching is exactly right. Like, I'm going to meet that athlete where they're at, and build a box together so that they can exceed their own expectations. I think that's invaluable. One of the things that you dig into topic is including diversity and inclusion and what it takes to find a place in the triathlon world. What do you think diversity and inclusion in triathlon looks like? What does that encompass? What does that entail?
It's representation, right? Seeking Henry, the first African American or Black pro triathlete, she says representation is important. And she says that over and over again, that's her message. And I 100% support her message and believe it myself. Representation is huge because if you don't see someone else like you, then you don't want to do it either. But the key about that is, like, I know some people are like, it's all about Black people doing this or this. It's not about, for me, it's not about color. My athletes are all different races, colors, ages, sexual orientation. I don't give a damn. As long as you're a good person, that's all I care about. You ain't a good person, I don't care what you can be Black. I still ain't talking to you, right? And so, like, that's the piece, and we forget that. But I think triathlon, about making it more diverse, is really accepting each other for who we are. It's not self-segregating as some groups do. It's like, I'm going to make my own thing here because I can't do it over here. It's like, so if they making their own thing, they won't let you in, and you make your own thing, well, nothing has changed. Like, you just created another group, right? So we have to understand that there is a long road that we have to go through and go down to create that unity that we need, right? For us Blacks, it's not just saying you need to give us this, and we have to learn as Blacks, but the whoever on the other side has to learn too. If it's the Caucasians, if it's Asian, if it's Latino, like, both sides have to have growth to have common understanding. If one side grows, just like any relationship, if I'm growing and you ain't, well, we still can't be together, right? So you might say, we want this, we want this, we want this, and we deserve this, and we putting all this pressure on them, but we're trying to take everything away, but we're not understanding why, right? And so I'm gonna go back to swimming again. Swimming is my thing, right? And so reading books and doing some history on it, like, people always, why don't we swim? Why don't we swim? Well, back in the day, slave owners didn't allow us to swim because they didn't swim, right? Europeans, why they shackle us on ships? Because we would jump overboard and swim back to the shore. They couldn't swim, okay? But so we say all these things that they did to us, I get it. It ain't right. It's never right. It's never okay to enslave anything or anyone, right? And so, but what we don't get is, like, why were they that way, right? And so let's not talk about the slavery part, but why couldn't they swim, right? Why couldn't whites swim? Europeans couldn't swim because the Catholic Church thought water was chaos. It was, you didn't see they didn't have swimsuits back then. So what? And back in those days, the Crusades and things like that, you don't go swimming with another woman or another man naked, right? That's a sin, right? And so you created a environment and a place where the European they weren't around water, right? Africans were around water. They weren't, and so they didn't have that same thing. That's why they used boats and did things like that. Well, that environment was, they weren't taught to be around it. Same thing that happened to us over time and generationally as blacks. And so now we have to teach them why they didn't swim, and they cause us not to swim. We understand both, and understand we both got to do the work to get back in the water together. We both have to do the work to get back to having conversations together, regardless of what we did. Oh, it's 200 years of this and what's still happening. But if we still dwell on the negative, we can never address what needs to happen. We keep addressing what hasn't happened or what has already happened, right? And so triathlon as a whole is in a certain very unique place right now where it's growing. Like me working with the Ironman Foundation Race for Change, going to marginalized communities, teaching blacks, swimming, biking, and running, right? These things are huge. And we just have to learn that it's a slow process because it took us hundreds of years to get here. It ain't going to change overnight. Just like I tell my athletes, you're like, oh, I can't fix this. Oh, my dang, man, I knew I was supposed to fix it. Took you 40 years to get here. You ain't changing it in 4 hours. Like, come on. like just being realistic. And I think that a lot of us are just we're not realistic with our expectations, right? We want what we want right now because that's what society has taught us to be. But in retrospect, we have to realize that we all have a lot of growing to do, and we can't do that by going tit for tat. Like if you got two kids and one keeps blaming it on the other, well, nothing's going to be resolved. But once you can get each person to see how they affected the other and what their actions were, then we can utilize growth. But if we stay separate and we self-segregate, then we can never grow as a unit and be a community.
Yeah, I think, growth takes time, and failure needs to be a lesson and not an ending point, right? So if one organization or one person screws up and doesn't do something right, take that moment to learn from that failure to grow and know that it's not linear. It's not like that 45-degree angle on a chart, right? It's all up and go to Training Peaks and take a look at your fitness line, right? It doesn't go straight left to right, up, down, up. But eventually your fitness goes up, right? So I think it's the same thing, that we have to recognize that growth takes time, and failure is just an opportunity to learn, and it's not an ending point. For those of you who are just joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I am one of the owners of Run Try Bike Magazine. We are talking with Coach Morgon Latimore on our Fireside Chat, which takes place every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on IG Live. Set your calendar to it. We're also joined by our social media manager and moderator, Om Gandhi. If you have questions for Coach Morgon, just click the little question mark on the bottom right. We're coming up close to the end of our time here with him. But if you have questions about triathlon, mental coaching, because he's an expert at it, even, got a suggestion for his next Friday song, and Dan, click the question mark and put it in there. One of the things you talk about, Morgan, is triathlon being an expensive sport, but as you point out in the book, that it doesn't have to be. Tell the audience why triathlon doesn't have to be an expensive sport.
My first bike was $100. You can swim in regular shorts. You got shoes, right? And you can borrow a bike. And it does. I've seen my first bike was, $100, but I've seen people do, borrow beach cruisers to go do a sprint, It doesn't have to be expensive because you don't have to have what everybody else has. That's the key, right? That's why it's expensive. It's like, damn, you got like a $10,000 bike. Well, you don't have to buy that, right? There are $300 bikes, there are $100 bikes, and you can save up for that just like you save up for anything else, right? You might not be able to do an Ironman or something like that, but there are other race venues out there that you can choose from, right? And then even Ironman have recently they've created the payment plan, right? So they recognize that that's another barrier gone. Like I don't have to drop $800, right? There's a lot of ways to do this. You just have to get creative, right? And I got a book about that too, actually. But That's my third book, not the fourth one. And so, but it talks about that piece where we just got to make the best of what we got. The only reason that we think we can't do it is because we're looking what everybody else has. Are we looking at the marketing? And you, as a magazine owner, you understand that marketing. Well, sometimes the stuff that is super expensive is the people that are paying you the money to advertise the thing. So that's all they see, right? The $200 Hokas or the $10,000 bike or because when they show you something, they're only showing you the thing that's going to bring you that internal excitement. That's what marketing does. But I would challenge people to go behind that. And it's like, okay, how can I get creative to make this best for me? You know what I mean? And I think that's huge, man. It will, when you get creative in triathlon, you get creative in other areas of your life, because we always, and I said it at the beginning, we're based off what we can do, based off what other people have, right? And we're trying to have that, and we think we need to have the same thing. But I would tell you, if you're doing your first triathlon, everything should either be borrowed or used until you realize that you want to do this type of thing. You know, if you hear me talking to somebody to the left of me, it's my 5-year-old daughter that should not be talking. She should be in bed, but she's in my office and she knows better.
Dad eye right there, dad's side eye. Well, I will tell you, one of the things that when people come to me and they ask about triathlon and getting started, I tell them the same thing: rent or borrow. I got 15 years of accumulated. Come and borrow it and figure out whether or not this is for you. Don't go out and buy the most recent, bike computer and the most expensive running shoes and all of these things until you really feel like this is something you want to do, because things can also transform. I mean, you're talking about running ultras. Ohm is an ultra trail runner. I started with triathlon and now I'm doing mostly trail running, right? There's an evolution into what you enjoy as well. And if you plunk down something immediately on a $10,000 bike and then you're like, I don't really care for this so much, it's like taking that car off the lot. It's now depreciated. Now what are you going to do?
Look at this though, like, and this is I hit everybody who's listening that hasn't done a try yet. You don't have to do more than one triathlon. Oh my God, like, you don't have to invest your life into it. Like, you can experience things and never do them again. That is totally okay. It's called an experience, right? You go to a resort to but I do it every day, but I do it every year. You do it every now and then. You know what I mean? That's the thing. We get in this habit. It's like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in. But as long as you're experiencing life, that's what matters. And so if you're doing something that, like, this is a conduit. Like, I've done so many other sports and learned about so many other sports, from triathlon, duathlon, decathlon, aquathon, marathons, ultras. Like, I wouldn't have known what the hell an ultra was back in the day, right? Like, I wouldn't even understood that. Or marathon swimming, or kayaking, or stand-up paddleboarding. It's because triathlon brought me to the water, so I saw other water sports. Triathlon made me a runner, so I was around other runners that did other running things, right? Then I started doing, like, I'm doing RAM, right? That because I was cycling, I was around other cyclists, I had another opportunity, and I've done other things, right? So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. It just doesn't have to, again, all this stuff, it doesn't have to look like everybody else. Be unique, be yourself, do what is comfortable for you when you're ready to do it, for how long you want to do it, right? You make the decision and you move forward. And when you're done with it, don't say, damn, I got to quit this. Say, I enjoyed that experience, but now I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, it's amazing. The guests that we've had so far, and I think this is our 6th Fireside, they've all said the same thing. Camille Baptiste from Swim, Bike, Run, Fun Events.
Yeah, I love Camille.
Exact same thing. Yeah, Camille's fantastic. And she said the exact same thing, and we echo that, right? Get the experience. If you enjoy it, do it again. If you don't enjoy it, go find the next thing. Life is too short to not go for experiences and see what's out there. We're coming up on the end of our time, so I've got 2 people who we're going to give Morgan's latest book, The Triathlete Mindset, Aspire to Redefine What's Possible for You. We're going to give them away, and we're going to scroll through here, and the first name is B. Heinzelman 10. DM us your email address, and we will get you connected so we can get your copy out to you. And the other one is try_Moffitt_try. Again,
no,
nope, can't have it.
That's one of mine. They got them. I can see some of these people in here.
How about Chris at Hortua? I don't want to mispronounce his last name. C.ATAHORTUA 82 at a Hortua. DM us, and we'll get you Morgan's latest book. Sorry, Tri Moffitt, you can't get it because you already got it.
Yeah, those are my people. That's my family right there. So they're my athletes in my family. So they have exposure to me 24/7. And I'm gonna do you one bigger, right? The two people you gave the book to, I'm gonna give you all 4 of my books.
Oh, that's awesome.
All 4 of them, they gonna get those and they can read those.
Awesome, appreciate that. So now we're gonna get into the rapid fire component of our fireside chat. So it's not too bad, not too hard. Swim, bike, or run? Which do you prefer?
Neither. I like to be honest, right? I prefer recovery. I would prefer recovery. I'm one of those people that you ain't got to tell to do nothing. Like, I'll do nothing on my own. I would go with cycling. I love the adventure and just to go out and be in different places.
Awesome. When you're running, music, podcast, or nothing?
Nothing.
Bucket list event?
Make it to 80 years old.
There you go.
That's an event, right? There's no bucket list race event that I have. Everything I want to do, I will do. That's how I think. So there's no bucket list. I make things happen. But achieving another level of my life, I think that's where I want to strive to be, is continue to grow in that.
Love it. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but if you're a baseball fan, they have walk-up music before they get their at-bat. So what would be your walk?
Back in Black.
Nice. Your favorite movie?
Top Gun.
There you go. Are you going to see the remake?
Yes, I was actually watching the previews the other day. They've been putting previews out for 2. I went to see the new Doctor Strange yesterday, and they had the previews there. So my number 1 movies ever and of all times is Top Gun is actually second, but my first one is Days of Thunder. Both Tom Cruise movies. I get it, guys. It's okay, but that's the only movie I've watched 1,000 times and it still has the same effect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a Bobby Duvall fan because I love The Godfather from back in the day. So with him and Days,
that's a good movie too. Yeah. He said, "I'm gonna run the tires my way, and I'm gonna run the tires your way." Right? And then whoever we pick, and then he showed them. Right? It was good, man. Then that part at the end is like when he wins, and he said it was all up to you, and we did this, and he was like trying to be humble about it, and he's like, "I'll race you," and they take off at the end of the movie on Days of Thunder, right? And it's like me being out there with my great grandfather and seeing him proud of me, and like that's an emotional moment for me because he's an older guy, but he's still bringing so much value to somebody's life.
I love it. And the last question: favorite post-workout or race recovery meal?
Pizza.
There you go.
The whole thing, pepperoni. And not a large pizza, not a personal 10-inch. I'm talking about a large pizza all by myself, and maybe a cherry slushie.
There you go. Stevie got this question wrong last week. Pineapple, yes or no on pizza?
No.
There you go, my guy.
There's no damn pineapple on no pizza. That ain't no pizza. So
it's not a fruit salad.
Yeah. No, that's a bad idea.
Hey, Morgan, I you all day. I love talking to you. When we talked a year ago, let's make sure we keep staying in touch. Appreciate the offer to the 2 folks who have won and to give them all 4 your books. Folks, go out and get Triathlete Mindset, Aspire to Redefine What's Possible for You. And go ahead.
I got one thing. Okay. So we're doing this thing. I told you earlier that I was doing RAM with a team, A2, Allied Alliance. And we're raising money for veteran and first responders suicide prevention, right? And see, one of our sponsors on here, Athletic Freak, was on here, following us for a little bit. And it's very important that, we recognize that. I'm going to Afghanistan. We come back with scars. Like I have depression, anxiety, PTSD that has taken me years to get to the point that I am now. That's why I am who I am, because I know what pain feels like. And there's a lot of service members that we have to portray this, what society expects us to be, this really tough individual. And so we can't ask for help. But I think that the people that we love know when we need it. And I would ask, not only will you reach out to those people and be there for them, even when they don't want you to be, to prevent these things from happening, but if you're looking for a way to give back, along with us, we're raising the money through Light Alliance and Guarding Revival. We're raising money, and you can go to alliancealliance.org and donate and learn more about what we're doing. We'll be leaving on the 18th of June, riding from Oceanside, California to Annapolis, Maryland, 3,070 miles to raise awareness for suicide prevention for first responders and service members. And I just wanted to say that that's important to me, because those are my brothers and sisters that we lose on a daily basis, and we don't have to. We just got to let them know that we're here for them.
We appreciate that. We'll make sure we'll get that link out through our bio and link tree and donate to help that, because it's an important cause. And thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Always, man. Always. And guess what? I'm doing it through sport.
Yeah.
Ah!
All right, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us again. And thanks, everybody, for being here. Stay tuned. Come on next week. We'll have another Fireside Chat. We'll be sending out our newsletter, so subscribe to it. That tells you who all of our guests will be in June. We'll be sending that out in about a week or so, because all the spots are booked. So thank you all for joining us. Enjoy your night. Morgan, appreciate your time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good day, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Have a good evening.
All right, bye.